Today marks the beginning of Teacher Appreciation Week. Well, I don't know about you, but I can say that there have been quite a few teachers in my life that did make an impact, all the way from the point when I was a wee little kid, all the way up through college. So I appreciate teachers. I unfortunately think they're underpaid and underappreciated, but then again, that's just me. I don't know if that's how you look at teachers or not. But I do know one thing for certain, and that is the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, gang. Yes, I am Jeff McAleer. I'm back once again. It is Monday, May 7th, a brand new week. Got lots cooking, and welcome aboard. I apologize. I was a little late today because got everything set up, started up the computer system, got all the cameras and lights and everything on, and I always check to make sure that the sound is in sync for each show, and normally I don't really have to adjust anything. Everything's fine. But when Microsoft Windows has an update, even if I'm not aware of the update, it seems to always mess up the sync for the audio. It just drives me nuts. So of course today, about 10 minutes or so before I start the stream, I'm checking and the sound is way out of sync. I still think it might be a touch out of sync. I am not positive for sure, but it was looking pretty good. But it may end up that after this stream, I might have to adjust the video and actually re-upload this video as opposed to keeping the live stream. Don't know. We'll find out. Anyway, it is Monday, brand new week. Thank you very much for joining me. I am Jeff McAleer. I'm your host here at the Daily Dope. And I just happen to also be the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com. So, hello! If it's your first time joining me, kick back, relax. This is a live stream. Most people don't watch it live, but it's very casual, very conversational. So, and if you are a returning visitor, hey, thanks for watching, as always. So, today I am actually going to review Reanimator, the board game, from Dynamite Entertainment and Lynnvander Studios. I don't think a whole lot of people have been covering this game yet, so I am going to do kind of an in-depth review. It's not a lot of news today. It's kind of a quiet news day, so we will be able to kind of relax and take a pretty heavy peek into Reanimator, the board game. I'll show you how to play, and then, of course, give you my thoughts. Anywho, I do have the two kitties down here today, so Pinky and Smokey are roaming around. Hopefully Pinky's not as loud as she's been lately when she's hanging out down here in the Duct Tape Studios. And we may get an appearance by Smokey hopping up on my lap. I don't know. Usually that's early in the show. Sometimes I start the show and she's already on my lap or kind of bouncing around nearby me to jump up. So, don't know. We'll find out. It's a live show. Never know what's cooking. Anyway, I do want to point out, because this is live, chat is available. It's just not on the screen. It's available through YouTube. So if you have a question, comment, suggestion, you want to know something more about Reanimator as I'm doing my review, feel free, chime in, or you can just say hello, and I will most certainly identify that you're saying howdy or have a question to ask. All right, as I mentioned, kind of quiet on the news front. I have 3 news pieces today. And the first off is from Osprey Games, because they have a new title, which is scheduled to come out this September. And I've got the dope on Cryptid. Ooh. You've studied the footage, connected the dots, and gathered what meager evidence you could. You're close. Soon the whole world will know the truth behind the Cryptid. A group of like-minded cryptozoologists have come together to finally uncover the elusive creature, but the glory of discovery is too rich to share. Without giving away some of what you know, you will never succeed in locating the beast. But reveal too much, and your name will long be forgotten. Cryptid is a unique deduction game of honest misdirection in which players must try to uncover information about their opponent's clues while throwing them off the scent of their own. Pinky, please, I just started the show. You gotta start up already? See, the whole thing is she wants me to go over there and pet her, and it's like, what? I'm busy. I'm not even talking to you. Anyway, each player holds one piece of evidence to help them find the creature, and on their turn, they can try to gain more information from their opponents. As I said, be warned, give too much away, and your opponents might beat you to the mysterious animal and claim the glory for themselves. The game includes a modular board, 5 clue books, and a deck of setup cards with hundreds of possible setups across 2 difficulty levels. It's also supported by an entirely optional digital companion, allowing for faster game setup and a near infinite range of puzzles. Cryptid is for 3 to 5 players, ages 10 and up. It will play in about 30 to 50 minutes and will carry an MSRP of $35 when it arrives this September. Interesting. It's nice to see Osprey Games is really doing a lot of different stuff. So they're doing games which are for a little bit older gamers, say for an example the Lost Expedition, which by the way will have a new expansion also coming out in September, and I am pumped because the gang and I really dig the Lost Expedition. But then they also do some, family games, some kind of children's games, some 2-player games. So very nice. I will look forward to hopefully checking this out come September. All right, if you are a fan of Warhammer 40,000, or as I like to call it, Warhammer 40K, like everybody else, the newest codex is now available for pre-order, and I've got the dope on the Death Watch. That's right. Coming next week, as far as I understand, the elite amongst the elite, carefully selected and recruited for their exceptional abilities, the Death Watch are a thin black line, a sentinel that stands between the Imperium and alien threats unimaginable. Always outnumbered, such is the staggering scale of the hordes they face, this noble brotherhood has stood stout against countless invasions and will face countless more. Organized into small elite companies plucked from Space Marine chapters that have pledged a tithe of their strength in the struggle against the alien, or the other, the outsider. The Death Watch counts only heroes amongst its ranks. Each member has been hailed as an expert in his field even before his training as a Death Watch operator has begun. His armor is painted the blackest of hues, his chapter icon intact upon his pauldron as a mark of respect to the chapter that made him. The Death Watch Space Marine and his highly specialized kill team descend to the edge of destruction, there to repel whatever dire threat they face. Codex Death Watch contains a wealth of background and rules, the definitive book for Death Watch collectors, or gamers. Within this 104-page hardback, you will find a history of the Death Watch, focusing on their origins as the ultimate defense against the encroaching Xenos threats, and their expanded role due to the sundering of the Imperium due to the opening of the Great Rift. Explanations of the Death Watch's place in the Greater Imperium, how they work alongside the Ordo Xenos, how they select their number from the greatest warriors of every Space Marines chapter, and the Ultimaris Decree, an order from Rubot Guilman, that bound every Primaris chapter to the tithe of Death Watch in, well, perpetually forever. Tools of the Alien Hunter. Each Death Watch warrior is given his pick of the finest weaponry the Imperium has to offer. Detailed in this section is the structure of the shield. This section outlines the core structure of a Death Watch base, the leadership of a watch commander, and the various companies they employ. Heraldry of the Honored. 6 examples of Death Watch base heraldries. The ties that bind. Descriptions of the different types of kill teams available to a watch commander and the criteria they use to select them. Right now, you can pre-order the Death Watch Codex through Games Workshop for $40 plus shipping. Indications I have seen show that this will actually, I believe, start shipping next week. But I'm not sure if that's just in the United Kingdom or if this will be worldwide. Alright, so I have to admit, I have a strange relationship with Games Workshop. Now, I was actually picking up White Wolf magazine back in the day when it really wasn't talking about miniatures. It was talking, about role-playing games and things like that. I did get on board with the first edition of Warhammer 40k. I had Epic, which was originally, what was it called? Adeptus Titanicus? Something along those lines. Eventually they called it Epic Space Marine. Played that. I picked up White Wolf religiously. Always dug the miniatures as well as all the background story. Even though Warhammer 40k is pretty grimdark, I still thought it was pretty cool. Always dug it. Now, on the flip side, I think Games Workshop charges an outrageous amount for their products, and it's just way out of whack with many other miniature companies out there. And I'll give you kind of an example. Now, keep in mind, these are larger scale minis. They're about 32 millimeter, if I remember correct. They're a bit chunkier than the traditional 28s. But I am showing an image of, I believe it's one of the commanders of the Death Watch. That miniature itself is $25. And it's sort of like, wow, that is just crazy. And I know there are a lot of companies out there who charge, $10, $12 for an individual standard humanoid size figure, which I still think is a little pricey. But $25, man, that's just crazy. I do have to point out, I am going to start taking a look at some of the 8th edition Warhammer 40k stuff, because I heard for the first time in years that Games Workshop actually advanced the storyline, and it's supposed to be pretty cool. In fact, Ulysses North America is getting ready to release their first Warhammer 40k role-playing game. I believe it's scheduled for a Gen Con release. And when I did my interview with Ian Starcher and Eric Simon from Ulysses North America, kind of talked about it a little bit. Sounds pretty cool. So I am going to actually take a peek at some of these core books in PDF, if I can get my hands on them and they don't cost me an arm and a leg. But yeah, so if you are huge into Warhammer 40k and you want the Death Watch, be sure to visit their website, get your pre-order in right now. My final news piece is about a pretty cool looking open game license release, which is from a company I've never heard of, Alligator Alley Entertainment. And they are bringing science fiction to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons in a big way. And I've got the dope on Esper Genesis. Brace yourself for high adventure in hyperspace as sci-fi comes to 5th edition. I hate the abbreviation sci-fi. And a lot of science fiction authors also hate that. But anyway, moving right along. I thought we were getting away from that, but I guess not. Galaxies at war, high-tech gadgets and weapons, robots, aliens, starfighters, and ancient machines with the power to shape reality. All of these make the core of Esper Genesis, powered by the 5th edition rules of the world's greatest role-playing game. Taking on the role of a galactic hero, you can forge your destiny within a universe of advanced technologies and hidden mysteries. We're talking heroic sci-fi role-playing. The Esper Genesis Esper Genesis role-playing game is a powerhouse of awesome sci-fi adventure. The core manual is the first of 3 rule books containing character creation rules, new science fiction races, character classes, background, skills, gear, rules for planetary exploration. I need a sip. I was trying to build up to this big crescendo. Planetary exploration, high-tech weapon combat, starship combat, Esper powers, and so much more. It is fully compatible with 5th edition. Esper Genesis is designed with an infinite universe in mind, powered by the 5th edition rules, as we said, of the world's greatest role-playing game. How many times do they want to say that? If you've played any 5e game, you already know how to play Esper Genesis. Though the system is easily integrated into any 5e setting, it is also a standalone product. You don't need the D&D rulebooks or any other 5e product in order to play. It's important to take note. This product contains 9 playable character races from the Silrain Arc galactic setting, 8 character classes, science fiction tailored backgrounds, equipment, and gear to round out your galactic pioneer, a full list of Esper powers, allowing your characters to warp time, space, and matter. Wow. High-tech gear and weapons, including rules for modern weapons, burst fire, and explosives, rules and options for modern and futuristic vehicles, space travel, and galactic exploration, a fully integrated starship combat system, a brief overview of the galaxy, people, and cultures. You can pick up a free download of the official Esper Genesis character sheet and the Game Master basic rules, which include sci-fi threats, special item enhancements, and setting development aids. So you can get your hands on the 304-page PDF of the core manual for $24.95 through DriveThruRPG. And as I mentioned before, you can also score the 160-page basic rules PDF absolutely free if you want to dip your toe into the water, check this system out, see if it's for you before you actually spend a penny. Do also want to point out that, of course, anytime I mention DriveThruRPG, the Gaming Gang, and thus the Daily Dope are affiliates of DriveThruRPG. So if you're going to swing over there, please visit thegaminggang.com. Click on one of our banner links that go to the drive-thru sites, and if you make a purchase, we get a small portion of that sale. Cool. This looks pretty wild, I have to admit, and the artwork that I've seen, unfortunately, I wish I had more. The cover artwork is really cool. I do want to mention that I have CastleSkydawn.com as the link down below the images. The reason being is because Alligator Alley Entertainment is part of this, and the entire link was so long it will not actually fit on the slide. So I shortened it up. So if you go to CastleSkydawn.com, you will see games you'll be able to click on and be able to check out Esper Genesis. All right, so that is the news for today. Like I said, kind of quiet on the news front. So anyway, all right, Pinky, you gonna be quiet now? Because all through the news you were complaining. So I am gonna take a look at Reanimator, the board game, in just a few moments, just so you know what's coming up on the shows this week. Over the weekend, I got something cool that showed up. Didn't realize it was coming. And it is going to be the latest game from my friends over at Fireside Games. That's right, I got a copy of Remnants, which is kind of a Mad Max-y, kind of post-apocalyptic game. Looks pretty sweet. I was looking forward to checking this out. And I have to admit, we play a lot of Hot Shots. Really, really dig Hot Shots. Most Fireside Games are pretty cool. I really dig them. So this looks pretty wild. And I don't necessarily know if you're going to be competing with other players. Well, okay, obviously you're competing. I don't know if you fight the other players, because it's got some info about you're fighting some of these outlaws and things like that, and you got like base building and stuff like that. So pretty cool. I am looking forward to cracking this open tomorrow. Nice. Then on Wednesday, Yes, I know it's War Game Wednesday, and I don't have. Well, who knows? You never know what's going to show up in the mail here. So, but I don't really have any war games I can like really review at the moment, or kind of do an unboxing for. So, what I am going to do is I'm going to do an unboxing of Helios Expanse, which is a 4X science fiction game from Greenbrier Games. So this will kind of fall into Wargame Wednesday because it's 4X. It is 4X. And my understanding is this game plays in about an hour. Or so. So you can kind of get that 4X itch scratched in a pretty quick amount of time. Hey, Drew Barbier is saying hello. Hello, Drew. Hey, Drew, do me a favor. Let me know if the sound is in sync. Hopefully it is. I had to mess around with that for quite a while. That's why I was late today. But anyway, good to see you, Drew. Glad to see you're watching. Then on Thursday, it's RPGs on Thursdays. I was going to review the day one missions book for Torg Eternity, but I have been getting some emails from people who want to know what I think of The Dark Eye. And of course, this was part of that huge box that showed up from Ulysses North America. And I'm almost finished with the rules. So I'm almost finished with the core rulebook. Pretty cool stuff. I will talk about that on Thursday when I do a review. And on Friday, unless things change, we're going to stick with The Dark Eye because there is the Aventuria Adventure card game, which I have heard really good things about, and I have yet to crack this open. I've been kind of holding off on it. So I've got that. That will be what I take a peek at on Friday. All right, so let me grab a sip here as I watch the two cats running all over the place like lunatics down here this morning. Or I shouldn't say this morning, this afternoon. This morning? Yeah, maybe somewhere else in the world it's the morning, but it's the afternoon here. All right, so I am going to take a look at Reanimator from Dynamite Entertainment and Lynnvander Studios. Yeah, it's slightly off sync, just barely. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Kept messing around with it. So unfortunately, what I'm probably going to end up having to do is, because I'm recording this, I'm going to have to fix the audio and then upload it. So unfortunately, Drew, your comments in chat is, they will not be available. So, okay, so seeing that, Drew just chimed in and said Aventuria, or it's Aventuria, right? Yeah, it's Aventuria. I almost said Adventuria, but isn't that, I think that's the setting for Adventure of Weeks, their game world. But yeah, so yeah, I heard it's pretty cool, so that's why I want to get a good look at it. Looks like the artwork is pretty phenomenal. Plus, well, you figure they've got what, 30 years of Dark Eye artwork that they can kind of, pull from. All right, so anyway, so I'm going to review Reanimator from Dynamite Entertainment and Lynnvander Studios. It's designed by Thomas M. Gofton. It's for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up. It plays in around 45 to 90 minutes. That's according to them. I don't believe it's going to run that long, even with full 4 players, because it didn't with us. It is available now for an MSRP of $49.99. So I do have it. So Drew says the adventure card game's got a PvP mode. Doesn't interest me, but it's got really good adventures. Cool. See, I told you I'm excited to look at that on Friday. All right, so I am going to move over to the other camera here. And that's a look at the box for Reanimator. So here we go. Got that set up there. I'm going to move this out of the way. All right, so I'm doing an overhead shot, right? So you're kind of missing out on one of the really kind of cool features of this game. And it is the little stand-up buildings that you put together. So first of all, this mat here, that these buildings, and I've got the cards and stuff set up on, I gotta be honest, I don't know if this comes with the base game or not. I think this may have been part of the Kickstarter. I am not positive though, But if memory serves me correctly, when I opened up the box that came from Dynamite, this was separate. So, don't recall, but I'm almost positive this is this may have been a Kickstarter exclusive, so I am not sure. But these stand-up buildings, so if we take a look here, we see it's the Historical Society. These stand-up buildings are pretty cool. They don't kind of hold together real well. I mean, just sitting there, it's fine. But picking them up, just the way that the little pieces kind of fit together, sometimes a wall falls off, things like that. I will point out that the roofs come off and you can flip them over. So let me pop that back over here. All right, so if you've seen the movie Reanimator, or if you've ever read the novella from H.P. Lovecraft, Herbert West Reanimator, or if you've read the Dynamite Entertainment Reanimator comics, then you have an idea who Herbert West may happen to be. Yes, and Jeffrey Combs was just phenomenal in the Reanimator movie. I have to point out, on a side note, that I remember I saw Reanimator, I want to say I was still in high school. My best friend Elliot Miller and I went and saw it. Of course, it was rated R. And we were, of course, by that point, we're playing Call of Cthulhu and we're really into everything Lovecraftian. And we're like, wow, we were laughing because there's like, humorous parts of the film. And then there's like kind of gross out parts. And then there was full frontal nudity. And there's a scene where it's like, are they going there? They're going there. If you've seen the movie, you know. But funny enough, it's kind of like the game is for ages 14 and up. The game is not complex. It is not difficult to understand. I guess 14 and up, maybe that's another one of these. Well, okay, so because it's got some small components in that could be swallowed, got to do the 14 and up. Or it may be 14 and up because of the subject matter. Because in reality, in the story, the movie, the comic, Herbert West is trying to create a serum, an elixir, a potion, which will cheat death. Which, if injected in someone who had died, it would return them to life. Thus, the title Reanimator. And of course, it's Lovecraftian, right? It's an H.P. Lovecraft story. So that means people start losing their minds. Things don't work out well. So I am not going to spoil the story or the movie or the comics, but it is actually one of my favorite H.P. Lovecraft stories. In fact, strangely enough, side note, some people may not realize, Herbert West Reanimator is actually supposed to be a satire. It was Lovecraft's attempt kind of at humor, and the story was actually broken up in monthly segments for a magazine. I can't remember what magazine it was in, though. So strangely enough, it was not published all in one pop. That's why it's kind of novella linked. All right, so anyway, so this is the layout for the game. So I'm going to take a guess that because let's take a look at the rules real quick. They show you kind of the setup, so how you set up the game, and so they're not showing this mat. This mat is really nice. It is made of mouse pad material, so pretty sweet, very, very cool. I like how the buildings, sit. They're not you're just putting them all in a line, kind of a little pathway and things like that. Strangely enough, there is a spot here where it says Opera House. So originally, I guess they were planning to have an Opera House building, but there is no Opera House building. There's no Opera House in Arkham. Sorry, opera fans. So what I've done is I just plunked down the Act 1 cards. So if we take a tour around the board here, we've got these different buildings, and these buildings will show you what you can get if you send Herbert West to that location. And you're going to see, you can flip this over so it shows this is the front lines. So if Herbert West were to lose 2 sanity, you would gain 2 cadavers. But we flip it over to this side, it shows that if this is overrun by the undead, and we'll see right here below, it shows the 3 undead. If there's ever 3 undead at this location, then this location will be overrun for the rest of the game. And you would flip the roof over like that. Kind of cool. I kind of like how they did that. So let me pop that back over here. So we've got the front lines, we've got the police station, we've got the Historical Society. Strangely enough, the Historical Society does not get overrun, which I thought that was a little odd. I think that it's possible that might be a misprint because you can get a tome here. We've got the hospital, we've got Miskatonic University, we've got the asylum, got the farmhouse, and then we have the Christ Church and cemetery. And let's just show off some of these buildings a little bit. And as I mentioned, see, now watch. I just tried to pick this up and it kind of started to fall all apart here. So let's see. Trying to get this so I can kind of show it off a little bit. See, so it's got like the church front to it. Got a little bit of glare on there. Then there's a cemetery. You actually see the gravestones. So that's the church. Then we just got a farmhouse. Okay, so we got the farmhouse here. Then we've got the asylum. Just like so. And we got Miskatonic. Got the big towers out front of it, so that's pretty sweet. Got the hospital. The Historical Society, which I get a kick out of. The Historical Society has a set of stairs. It's got a set of stairs out front. Then the police station. Just like so. And the front lines. Which looks like this is supposed to be like army barracks. Is what I'm guessing. It's what I'm taking a guess at. Then we've got this counter here. This token here represents the City Watch, which I gotta be honest, I don't really. I get what I get what the City Watch is supposed to represent. This must be something from the comic book, from the comic series, I believe, because I don't recall any like City Watch being involved in the novella. I mean, people are like turning in Herbert West and his assistant for the crazy stuff that they're doing because, of course, what do they need to do? They need to acquire cadavers to be able to test their theories and test these serums and things like that. All right, so then we're going to see we've got used cadavers, we've got a workbench, then we have Herbert West. So we have the Herbert West card. And another reason why I don't think this mat comes with the standard edition of the game is because you'll have these cards. And these cards are also on this mat. So on the mat here, we've got used cadavers. We've got the workbench where you're going to store your ingredients, your tomes, and your cadavers. Then we have Herbert West. And here we've got his sanity and his health. And then we've got these sanity tokens, just like so. There are 6 of these, so Herbert West starts with 6 sanity. And then he's got 6 health as well. So we've got those counters right there for the health. Then we've got this syringe counter. And this actually tracks the rounds of the game. So you'll have, they call them serials. And these serials, oh, Bill Ateo. Hey, Jeff, just wanted to say hi. I'm glad to see you're doing well and still making gaming videos after your recent health scare. Wishing you good health in the future. Thank you very much, Bill. Thanks for tuning in. And yes, I have to read the chats because we already know the sound's just a little bit out of sync on this video. So I'm going to have to take the recording of it and tweak the sound. So the live feed is going to end up getting replaced, and that means the chat record disappears. All right, let me grab another sip real quick. But yes, thank you very much, Bill. I'm doing all right. I have to go have another stent put in. That is not going to be all that great. And the bills are really stacking up. But there will be a crowdfunding project. It's going to launch next week, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in the week because I've got some companies popping in. It's not going to be crazy. It's not like I'm looking to try to pull in Dice Tower Kickstarter kind of funds, but just to try to keep the website and the videos around because the budget for the Gaming Gang and of course the Daily Dope is minuscule. All right, so anyway, we also have ingredients, just like so. Got these ingredients here. These are tomes right there. And then we've got cadavers right here. Now, on these cadavers, if we flip it over, that is the undead. So if you are familiar with the Reanimator story, so Herbert West and his assistant reanimate some bodies, but let's just say that they're not all there, right? So although it's kind of funny if you read the novella, there's the what is he? He's the captain. He's a Canadian captain who he's like the big bad in the story, who is kind of replaced in the movie with the one professor, not Dean Halsey, but the one professor. But he's a pretty bizarre character in the novella. All right, so anyway, and yes, he is one of the dead that Herbert West and his assistant reanimate on the battlefields of France. All right, so anyway, so the premise of the game is that we have these serials. So the serials are effectively a round. So you're going to have 6 rounds to be able to attempt to successfully create the serum, the reanimation serum that will defeat death. So we've got these decks of cards, and I've kind of got them around. I've got these scattered around a little bit, just because, as usual, space is kind of at a premium. So what you're going to do in each of these serials, each of these rounds, is you're going to draw an Act 1 card, an Act 2 card, and an Act 3 card. Usually you'll have a third act. Sometimes you may not. So the first thing each player will do, and this is for 1 to 4 players, and because we have 4 players, we're going to put 4 dice on the Herbert West card, and I'll explain why we're doing that in just a second. So to begin the game, you're going to draw an Act 1, and Herbert West begins at Miskatonic University, and the City Watch begin at the police station. So you're going to look at, okay, we've got Act 1, you're going to flip a card, and it's going to give you options sometimes. So you know what? I'm going to need my reading specs for this. So we see Raising the Watch, and this is a wild card. So you'll see that the cards will have borders which are different colors. So it says Raising the Watch. Even without our nocturnal activities, there were plenty of reasons that the watch could be raised. More men patrolling the street meant more difficulties for us. It says move the City Watch to Herbert West's location. And then we've got investigation here. Or the watch was intelligent enough to know that staying in a single area for long periods of time was not conducive toward their operations. Move the City Watch to a different location, player's choice. So what the City Watch does is the City Watch actually makes things more difficult for Herbert West. So the premise is, even though you've got 1 to 4 players, the players don't necessarily represent characters. You could say they do. You could say they're all assisting Dr. West. Or you could say they all represent his nameless, in the novella at least, assistant. So here we get a choice. This is a choice of what we get to do. So either we can move the City Watch over to Herbert West's location, and then we are going to look to draw an investigation card, or we can put them at any other location, and then we're going to try to draw an occult card. So occult can be pretty weird. I mean, occult cards can be good for us, it can be bad for us. Usually the investigation cards are actually good for us. So if we weren't planning on leaving Herbert West sitting in this location, we might say, yeah, let's do investigation. So we're going to take the investigation option and take this top part here, and we've moved the City Watch. Now we move to Act 2. So we're going to flip Act 2 cards until we find an investigation card or a gray wild card. Sure enough, we luck out. It is an investigation card. So once again, we are getting 2 options here. So this is the second act. It says your sneaking around may have provided an unexpected boon. You come across a recently deceased worker without any witnesses. You decide to leave it. Huh? What? Why would we leave a dead body? Or take it. Draw the first hard card from the deck, but gain a cadaver. Gain 1 cadaver. So we've got a choice. We need cadavers. So at the end of each of the serials, we have to try to perfect the serum. And we need a cadaver to do it. So we always need to have a cadaver every round, basically. So what we could do is, all right, so let's take the cadaver. So we're going to gain a cadaver, but now we're going to have to look for a hard card, and it's got to be occult. So we're going to put the cadaver here, right there on our card, because this is kind of our inventory of stuff. So we've got the cadaver there. Now we're going to move to Act 3. So we're looking for occult, and we're looking for hard. So we flip the first one over. Well, sure enough, we get an occult card, and it says, there came to that room wild streams of violet midnight glittering with dust of gold, vortices of dust and fire swirling out of the ultimate spaces and heavy with perfumes from beyond the worlds. So it's Azathoth stirs. Yeah, excellent. Place this card in the middle of the play area. Each time an occult card is drawn, you must take a tome from those you have gathered and place it on this card. If unable to do so, lose 1 sanity. When this card has 6 tomes on it, you may place it into the discard pile. Then shuffle the discard piles back into the subplot decks and return the tomes to the bank. Great. So that stinks for us, because every time we draw an occult card, we are going to have to kind of feed this card. So that would be an example of another occult card. And see what I mean? That's bad for us. Just kind of give you an idea. Let's go through a better act, because I don't want to be shackled with that right off the top, man. So let's put that cadaver back. Leave Herbert West where he's at. Doubling the Night Watch. Even though there's no way they could know about our efforts, I feared the worst. Watching over my shoulder, I had to continue to cover our efforts. All right, so same thing. City Watch would go to Herbert West's location. So now we have to look for an investigation card. And what'll happen is, if we draw a card that's not an investigation or a wild card, then we just keep going. So all right, so we got that. Here we go. University hallways are quiet. Perhaps too quiet. You decide to hide to avoid difficulties that you may face. Or when things are too silent, it means that something terrible is likely afoot. You decide that it's time to run. So we could lose an ingredient and hide. Well, that's not going to help us out. We don't have any ingredients. So we have to choose this one here. We get no effect. But now we're looking for an occult card in Nope, we got that. Put that there. There we go. Message from Yith. So it says, we didn't know what or who Yith was, but their package was still accepted and taken in for our continued experiments. Gain 3 ingredients. So right there now, that's like, yeah, hey, that's good for us. Like I said, the occult cards can be good or bad. So we would get 3 ingredients. So we got the ingredients here. All right, so if we stay here, we have to spend an ingredient to be able to use the Miskatonic University because the City Watch is here. If we get undead roaming all over the place and we get one of these buildings overrun, it means it costs us 1 health to go into that building, or actually to basically score what's going to be on the building, keeping in mind that when the building's overrun, we get less goodies. All right, so what happens now after we've gone through the 3 acts? Each player, as I'm trying to get this, come on, yo, get back in there. There. All right, so once you've done the serial, then each player is going to get to move Herbert West to a location and activate the building to be able to get the items. So let's say, for an example, we've got 4 players in the game. What we're going to do is, let's move Herbert West around 4 times. Now, keeping in mind, we need a cadaver. So we need a cadaver every round. Every serial, we're going to need a cadaver. So let's say the first player decides, all right, well, I'm going to go over here to the front lines. I'm going to lose 2 sanity, but we're going to gain 2 cadavers. Okay, so that's the first player. The second player says, okay, well, we lost that sanity. How about if I move Herbert West over to the asylum? Let's get that sanity back. All right, there we go. So that was the second player. Then third player says, well, you know what? I think we could really use a tome. Because what you can do is you can actually make it a little easier to pass the end of the serial roll by having tomes, by spending tomes. So we're going to get a tome for going to the Historical Society. So that was the third player. Now the fourth player decides, okay, well, why don't we go and get, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to get another tome. So we've got the 2 tomes. So thankfully, we have 4 reference cards. So each of the players gets a reference card here to tell them, okay, so this is basically how things break down in the game. So we have the serial. So each of the players, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to kind of, first player gets to do the 3 acts. They read the cards, and everybody decides what you're going to do. Then on the next serial, it would move to the next player. Then the next player takes cards, reads. You don't have to do that. You don't have to really, because a lot of times you have people playing games that they don't like reading out loud. I don't mean they don't like reading. I mean they don't like reading out loud. So you don't really have to do that. But anyway, so it's going to tell you effectively that, talking about, okay, during the serial, so each of the players reading, then it talks about, okay, so when you start going to the buildings, so if we've got things that are overrun, and then it talks about where we put undead when we're told that we have to pull an undead out. What it doesn't give you a reference of is what you need to do every turn, every round, I should say, every serial. Now, if we take a look at the rules here, these rules are super easy. You can explain the game to somebody in about, I don't know, 10 minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes tops. because most of this rulebook is actually dedicated to setting the game up and putting together the buildings. So it'll talk about Herbert West, the workbench, which all the workbench really is it's our inventory. The subplots, which are all these cards here. Breaks down the card itself. Then talks about what each of the buildings do. Talks about the City Watch and the Undead, which really, the Undead placement's right on this card too. And then the end of the serial. So this is what I wish they had actually had on this reference card. So we got the reference card, then on the back, we've got this Reanimator just to kind of set it apart. What I would have liked to have seen is that they had this info on this side. So each player would get a reference card, and everything you need to know about playing the game is on this one card. Unfortunately, this section's not. So what you do at the end of the serial, you're trying to perfect the reanimation serum, and you're going to do it by rolling dice. So you're allotted one roll of the dice for each cadaver you own. If you don't have a cadaver to experiment on at the end of a serial, you automatically lose the game. You can spend a number of your tomes equal to the number of players in order to roll one fewer die at the end of a serial. It's considered gaining knowledge. Well, we're playing as if we have 4 players. We only have the 2 tomes, so we're not going to be able to remove a die. So it says, when rolling, you're attempting to roll below the number of ingredients you have secured and chosen to utilize. Well, we've got 3 ingredients we could be using from the workbench here. So it says, if the roll succeeds, the story continues. If the roll fails, remove health or sanity equal to the dice result minus ingredients, and the story continues. During the final serial, you must either succeed or lose the game. An example, if you roll a 6 on 2 dice and have 4 ingredients, you lose 1 health, 1 sanity, or 2 health, or 2 sanity. So, now that's, to me, doesn't make any sense, right? This is one of the things I'm going to point out about the game itself. There are some typos, both on the cards and kind of in the rule book. The rule book's not that big a deal, but see, for an example, you roll a 6 on 2 dice and we have 4 ingredients. You lose 1 health and 1 sanity, right? So that's the difference of 2. Okay, or 2 health or 2 sanity. See, I read that wrong. I thought it said 2 health and 2 sanity. So it happens. Even the reading glasses from far away don't necessarily help out. Anyway, so everybody decides together. Any cadavers, tomes, or ingredients not used during this serial may be saved for the next serial. Any used tomes or ingredients are returned to the supply. Any used cadavers are put into the used cadaver pile. All right, so early on, it's going to be pretty tough. So we've got the 3 ingredients. We've got 2 tomes. Not much we can do with the tomes. So we can't take these away. Now remember, this totals 12. So we are hoping that we do not roll 15 or higher because we would lose the game. Oh, damn it. And of course, what do? We roll 15. So let's change that. So what we're looking at here is, okay, so that would be the 3 ingredients that we used. We used the cadaver. Well, you know what? What you could do is we got the ingredients. Now the cadavers give us another roll. So let's spend the 2 cadavers. Yeah, that's way better. All right, so we spent the 2 cadavers. The used cadavers are going to go into here. And the ingredients are going to go back to the bank. So we would lose 7. So we're going to end up losing, let's say we lose 3 sanity, 4 health. And that would be the end of the first serial. We would move to the second serial and continue along. Now look, we're already in dire shape. We are not in good shape here. We've only got 2 health and 3 sanity. And as I mentioned, if either one of those reaches 0, that's the end of the game. So what you would do next is, all right, moves on to the next player, and then they're going to, once again, repeat Act 1. At midnight, the doorbell rang. All the servants were asleep in the attic, so I answered the bell. There was a group of strange-looking figures bearing a box, which they deposited in the hallway. Express prepaid. We can lose 2 sanity or gain a cadaver. Or, even with all the issues that I faced, there was so little that could be done. I ignored the incessant knocking late into the night. So we're either going to look to draw an occult card, lose 2 sanity, which will leave us with 1, or we do nothing. I would probably recommend, okay, we probably shouldn't do anything because we only have 3 sanity right now. So we move on to Act 2, and we can take any card. The Dead Walk. Our past action continued to chafe at us. They moved at night, and we feared what would happen if we were ever found. Pick up all undead and place them in Arkham. Then move the City Watch to the Arkham building with the fewest undead. Players decide ties. So, normally placing the undead, you're going to place the first one wherever Herbert West is at. So he's at the Historical Society. And then it's basically, all right, wherever there's no undead. So we get to choose, so it's kind of like, well, I don't know if we would go to this, be always going to the police station. So we might put the police station there. And then it says, move the City Watch to the Arkham building with the fewest undead. Player decides. Let's send the watch to the hospital, just for the heck of it. All right, so that would be the second act. Then it just says we're going to take the top card. Just going to take the top card from Act 3. And then we take Act 3, and it says the Dreamlands. The world itself has taken on a strange cadence to it, as though we could hear and feel all of the vibrations of each atom at once. Things changed with the merest of thoughts, and we were soon lost. Consult the following list for what happens. If Act 2 was occult, which it was not, lose all tomes you've gathered. If it was science, gain 2 cadavers and place 2 cadavers in Arkham as undead. If it was investigation, place City Watch at Herbert West's location. If it was wild, we get to choose an option. Well, previous card was a wild card, so let's gain 2 cadavers. So we get the 2 cadavers, and it says we have to place 2 undead. Well, we don't have any used cadavers. We can skip that because we can't put undead out there that we have not used cadavers for. So then, once again, we would have, okay, first player decides, where do I want to go? Let's go to Miskatonic University, and let's get 1 sanity and 1 health back. Then the 4th player could say, okay, well, let's go to the farmhouse. Let's get ingredients. So we get 2 ingredients. Then maybe the 4th player says, okay, well, let's stay at the farmhouse, get 2 more ingredients. And you'd be back to doing the rolling of the dice. And of course, basically what's going to happen is you're going to, for the most part, you're going to continually fail. And you're always going to be losing your sanity, losing your health. You're going to have more undead hitting Arkham. Yeah. Let me get a sip here. All of a sudden my throat's like, ah. There we go. So as I was saying, you're gonna go through the 6 different serials. You're gonna try to get the tomes because you're gonna try to stack up these tomes for when you get to the end of the 6th serial. So failing isn't too bad in the first 5 serials as long as you have enough health and enough sanity that you don't lose all of it, because then you lose the game. So what you try to do basically is you're going to try to get enough tomes. So for an example, You'll try to have 8 tomes when you get to these. If you're playing with 4 players, you're trying to have 8 tomes when you get to the 6th cereal, to the end of the 6th cereal, and have a bunch of ingredients, because you're gonna roll your dice, and in the 6th cereal, you have to win. You have got to succeed this 6th round, because if you don't, then you lose. And it's basically just like effectively in the Reanimator stories, where you're looking at, okay, I'm not gonna ruin anything, but it doesn't end well for Herbert West in the story, in the movie, and I have to assume probably in the Dynamite Entertainment comic. But that's the whole key, is you're basically gathering up these resources so that when you hit number 6, you pass that roll. And there's ways for you to get re-rolls too, so that kind of helps. Overall, the game's not difficult. The big selling point for Reanimator, the board game, is the different acts in the serials with the different stories and things like that, because you figure with these various different decks, and it's all mixed up, you're going to have all these different things. There's all these combinations of things that can happen while you're playing. So it really does add to the replayability of the game, having these various different acts. But as I point out, there are some typos in the cards. Not a ton, but there are some, and I was kind of like, what? Not a huge deal. So as far as the game goes, this is what kind of throws me off a little bit. So it's 14 and up, and as I mentioned before, I believe it's 14 and up simply because here in the US, if you got counters like this and dice and anything that some kid can swallow, we have to say, oh yeah, it's for ages 14 and up. Reality being, honestly, like a 10, 11-year-old kid can understand how to play this game. Unfortunately, the subject matter probably isn't going to be for a 10 or 11-year-old child. But this isn't a real hefty game. This isn't a game that takes a lot of planning, really, in any way, because you're just reading the cards, you're rolling dice, you're gathering up the different tokens. And I know some people are not going to like that much randomness, because there is tons of randomness. Yes, you do have some control over your dice rolls at the end of the serial, depending on what you've got as far as, your cadavers, your tomes, and your ingredients. So there is that, but you're still rolling the dice. And the various different cards through different acts, it is very possible that you're behind the 8 ball throughout the entire game, making it quite a bit harder to win, because you're not gaining anything. You're constantly losing your sanity, your health, your various different items that are in your on your workbench. And then as these undead continue to pop out from these different cards, then it gets to the point where, okay, well, if Miskatonic University is overrun, whenever you go to Miskatonic, you're no longer getting 1 health and 1 sanity. It's an option, 1 health or 1 sanity. If the hospital gets overrun, when you visit, you can only get the 1 health. But here's the rub. If a building is overrun by the undead, it costs you 1 health to use the building. So Miskatonic University is overrun with the undead, and that's like, okay, well, it's going to cost me a health to get either a health or a sanity. So once these buildings become overrun, it can make things quite a bit more difficult in the game as well. I like the game. I think the game's pretty cool. The rest of the gang, yeah, they liked it. They liked the story aspect of it. It's not any like huge, heavy mental lifting, any, any great strategic mindset that you have to play the game. There really is no analysis paralysis because things move along so quickly. Yeah, sometimes players are like, well, where should I go? Which building should I go to? And then the other players all kind of, discuss, well, we should probably get another cadaver, or yeah, we should probably get some more ingredients, things like that. So the big selling point are the serial cards, the different acts for the serial, the subplot cards, I should say. That is what they are known as. I really dig the mat. I think the mat is very cool. Component-wise, pretty nice. Only thing is, this is the box. So you kind of have to disassemble some of the buildings to put them back into the box. And then, like, for an example, I just kind of moved that and boom, the wall came off. So the reality is you're not probably going to store these buildings assembled. You're going to take them apart and just reassemble them every time you play, which takes a few minutes. I mean, it's not going to take a ton of time to put these back together because it's pretty obvious from the actual buildings themselves. They're not identical. They're all different colors. They're all different brickwork, things like that. So pretty easy to tell, okay, all these pieces go together. Now, the one thing that you do have to kind of take a look at is in the book, it will show you, which I thought was a nice touch, because otherwise you'd be like, what? It's going to show you exactly what pieces are each building. So sometimes when you're putting the buildings together, I had to take a peek at this to figure out, oh, okay, what roof is going on where. It is possible, if you wanted to, you could simply save yourself time and just place that down, the building's roof, as that's the building. And to be honest, I take a stab in the dark that before the idea came about to make these 3D buildings, that's exactly probably what you had. Or you had these buildings on like a game mat or board or like a map that they were already on. And this was just kind of these 3D buildings were added in as an extra touch after the game was designed. All right, so overall, what do I think of Reanimator, the board game? So as I mentioned, even though it says it's for ages 14 and up, it's not difficult to learn how to play. It takes a few minutes to play, to teach it. 10 minutes probably is my thoughts there. It moves pretty quick. As I mentioned before, it's 45 to 90 minutes. Even with 4 players, we got about an hour. It's kind of difficult to put together a strategy for how to approach winning Reanimator because of the randomness of those subplot cards. But then again, it's kind of cool because you have to sit there and kind of roll with the punches. But a couple of the guys weren't keen on that. They were like, well, it's you can't kind of get a foothold on things because of the randomness of the cards. And I was like, yeah, but still, you're kind of getting a story out of it. I thought it was fun. I think it's a fun game. I think if you're really into H.P. Lovecraft games and things like that, yeah, you probably pick it up. You'll get a kick out of it. If you especially enjoyed the Reanimator movie or the Dynamite Entertainment comics, yeah, I would say pick it up. If you're looking for like a really meaty experience, no, it's pretty light game. It's a pretty light game. You can breeze through it pretty quick. Do like the components. I do like the storytelling aspect of the game. But all in all, it's not reinventing the wheel by any stretch. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I give Reanimator 7.3. Like I said, it's a good game. It's a fun game. It's not a phenomenal game. It's not a great game. It's not a must-have game by any stretch of the imagination. Some people will not like the randomness and the inability to really kind of put together a game plan of how to approach winning the game. But then again, those of you who like a lot of randomness and chaos, as I sometimes do with a lot of game designs, you'll probably dig it. All right, so that is it for today's show. Just so as a reminder, let me jump on back and grab it. Tomorrow I will be unboxing remnants from my friends over at Fireside Games. Looking forward to this one. I know my nephew Cameron's gonna be excited because he loves all the Fireside stuff when we play. So that is going to be on tomorrow's show. So, as always, when you're out watching The Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Come on, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and I will be back tomorrow. Until then, hopefully your week is off and running. Have a happy Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.